Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Premier League panel show. Back in action with the panel over here. Obviously, we had the international break, then Mecca filled in for me a couple of times, but we will have a full rectangle over here in a little bit. Io will be joining us as well, but Sully is here with Newcastle. Glenn, as always, with the Brentford fan in the US. So we'll get to it. I think this week we'll go slightly different. I'll put up the scores right here, guys, and then we'll kind of like touch up on. I kind of want to really get to our main teams, but also some of the stuff in the league. I know a lot of it. Well, we know for a fact the guys who are going to be not joining us in the future in the Premier League, so that's already known. But I do want to talk about the top five. Obviously, is going to be like the biggest conversation. But aside from that, there are something said in the media and stuff like that I want to get your guys' take on. So let's start with obviously the Everton Arsenal game. That was something nice to wake up to. And I was like, oh, great. The Fulham game is not a big deal anymore. And then apparently all the Liverpool players thought the same thing because they gave a dud the next day when they played against Fulham. But let's get to Brentford. Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. One thing I was going to ask you when I saw that was, Sully's happy, so he's appreciating that. But
I owe you a beer, Glenn.
I was going to ask you that I don't know, maybe this might not be factual. It's more like an impression that I'm getting, but it feels like the free scoring Brentford is no longer there. Is that just my general misconception? Are they scoring goals? You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like Brentford used to be. Remember, we were like, hey, we want to do a live watch along. It's going to be Brentford or Tottenham because we know we're going to see a lot of goals. Whereas I don't feel it's been the case as much recently.
Yeah, it's fair enough. But also, if you look at our fixtures, so you've had Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Villa, Everton in a row. I don't think you'd necessarily expect to score high against any of those teams. All good teams. Everton under Moyes totally revitalized. The game before that, Leicester City away, we win 4-0. Right? So that wasn't actually that long ago. That was only towards the end of Feb. But I mean, yeah, they're a pretty sorry outfit. And to be fair, you have to go back a little bit further. The Southampton game, that was right at the start of the year. That was Jan 4th, where we won 5-0. So yeah, I think the era of end-to-end entertainment at the Amex at the GTEC is certainly over, right? We've had that this great first half of the season where every neutral, if they weren't watching their team or they're just interested in the Premier League, would probably turn over to the GTEC and catch a couple of goals and some drama, right? The Newcastle game, 4-2 to us, that just really encapsulated this. We beat Leicester 4-1. We beat Bournemouth 3-2. We beat Ipswich 4-3. We beat Wolves 5-3. These were all week in, week out, right? Yeah. There was a couple of months, October, November. That was the stadium to watch football in England purely for entertainment, right? And you just can't keep that going forever. And I think it is nice that the two high-scoring games since then have been away games, right? It was the King Power Stadium and at St. Mary's, where we hit 9 goals between the two teams. So I think that party was never going to go on forever. It was unsustainable. And it's been really exciting to actually totally pivot and take some really good form away from home. And Sully, I'll be interested to hear what you think, but I thought we put in a really quality performance, a really hard-working performance over at St. James's a couple of days ago. And I felt a bit hard done by to come away with a loss. Not that you didn't deserve a win, but I felt like we put enough. It was a really decent, valiant performance at, I think, one of the hardest places to go in the country. So, I think it was we were never going to sustain that entertainment. And to be honest, the games you'd think we'd score highly in 2025, we actually have still done that. We've just come up against a really tough set of fixtures. Like every team I listed in the last month, that's a good, well-organized team. There's no easy goals there.
So is it because people have adjusted to what Brentford is doing, you think? Or is it everybody was hot early in the season, all at the same time, scoring at a will? And when, you know what I mean? Like all your players, Wissa and stuff like that. Whereas now everybody's kind of cold at the same time. Because I see, when I watch the highlights, I haven't watched a full game in a while for Brentford, but I see them in the situations. It's just not going in like it was before.
Absolutely. And you can kind of flip what I've said, actually, and say, those two games I pointed to against the relegation teams, those are the only games I think we've scored more than 2 goals this year. Right. So you can actually reverse what I said and say, oh, actually, okay, beyond those two outliers, because they're against like championship level opposition, which I think we'd all agree with, we have struggled to get more than 2 goals past opponents. And I will say, again, we've played a really tough set of teams this year. There's been no like easy games except the ones we won. But yeah, I think our finishing, Wissa, for example, had one of the best conversion rates in the league. Still will be up there. I don't know whether he's one or two, but he was like, in terms of shots scored percentage wise, he's been leading the league for most of the season, and he hasn't necessarily had the opportunities. Yeah, we've had periods of domination, periods of good football. Again, I thought an equalizer might be coming against Newcastle. We're really pushing hard for that. Against Chelsea, first half, we looked really, really good. And the general takeaway from the fans was we're playing well, but we just can't score. And that wasn't the case last year, right? The case in this season was, Wissa or Mbumo, everyone's going to get a goal because we've got this kind of synergy. So, yeah, I would agree to some extent that the goals have dried up. But nonetheless, the opposition have been pretty tough. And, maybe people like don't play a high line against Brentford or don't let them beat you on transition and come on the counter, because that's where they're the most dangerous, when they create 3-on-2s. And teams will figure that out. And we're playing the same 4-3-3 pretty much week in, week out. We haven't changed much tactically. We haven't changed the team that much, I don't think, in the last couple of weeks, injuries aside. So yeah, there's a Brentford formula, and I think enough teams are getting smart to what not to do against us, and that makes it trickier.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like in the beginning, people were like, yeah, it's Brentford. And then people are like, wait, these guys are literally dangerous. You can't afford to be that, just go attack them and stuff like that. So I think, leaving one extra guy behind and stuff like that to stop those counters. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, because it's just people are a lot more cautious. And that's what the challenge of, taking the next step is in some ways, when people kind of like prepare for you. Like, I don't know how many people are preparing for Leicester right about now, but, people are preparing for Brentford in the sense that you don't want them to counter and stuff like that. But let's get to Newcastle. I mean,
Timothy, can I jump in and piggyback off what Glenn was saying about, our game at the Newcastle Brentford game? Glenn, I would agree and say that you're right. The goals have dried up, but that doesn't make Brentford any less good of a team than they were at the beginning of the season. They're in a scoring drought. Like, they're still putting in wildly entertaining performances. I mean, it took what could be the goal of the season to beat you guys later on. And I really think, like, I was shocked to see Brentford in 12th. The way Brentford plays is, I think, very much like that grindy tactically sound football. The goals are just not going in. That's all there is to it. The fixtures have been super unkind. Bournemouth, that's a game where you should put a few more goals in, but solid showing. 1-0 against Villa, nothing to scoff at. 2-0 at Tottenham. The goals will come. You guys are safe. I think you're playing really strong soccer right now, and I think the entertainment factor is definitely still there.
Yeah, I just know, like, early in the season, people were tripping over each other when we had a watch along for like Spurs or Brentford's, and you always were like, take the over in terms of like number of goals. But Spurs still around there, but definitely like with Brentford, that kind of like has changed. Like we talked about it before, like suddenly like they could not lose at home, then they could not lose away. It just kind of like it's weird how like the season has changed for like Brentford. Well, for Newcastle though, I'm assuming you're a happy guy, because I think the biggest concern with Newcastle was after they won the trophy, how are they going to respond? Are they going to be like, oh, like after like a big dinner, or are they going to be kind of like hungry for more for Champions League? So far it's looking good.
Yeah, I have been hurt too many times by Newcastle to really, get excited about any of this. I am still very cautiously optimistic. Like I said to Glenn, it took an unbelievable goal, and just I'm surprised nobody's called attention to it. This is a picture I have of Sandro Tonali above my head. Just a workhorse. Just a workhorse. But with that being said,
why do you have a horse back there, by the way?
long story. Don't have time on this podcast. This is from my equine podcast that I do on on Wednesday nights. So that's what it is. I bet the horses for Tenali's picks over there also. But with that being said, it took we've got 2 wins off the cup. One of them came down to Tenali hitting just an absolute piss missile that had no business going in. It did. We locked in defensively. There's our W against Brentford. Yesterday against Leicester, we didn't get out of second gear. We did not, I think, play that great of a game. And that's just a testament to how bad that on that second Murphy goal, I can't even remember who the midfielder was, but he just let Bruno take the ball off his foot. He just pulled out of this challenge. Or no, maybe it was on the Barnes goal. But either way, Leicester is not that's not a win. You never apologize for a win, but that's not a measuring stick win. You cannot tell anything about a team based on that. Those first 15 minutes, the game was over. Everything after that really didn't matter. So I think I'm going to withhold judgment until this Man U game. I think that's going to be the real test to see where we are and if we belong in the Champions League. And with this 5th Champions League spot opening up, we're sitting in a decent position. I think Chelsea will fall off. I don't know what's in the water in Forest right now. Like that they just keep on chugging. So we'll see what happens. I did the math. I could see us getting 14 points out of our last fixtures. I'm also a history teacher, so if I did the math wrong, that's
you should stick with history.
Yeah. So I like Arsenal. I don't see a point there. But yeah, I could see us hanging around, but I want to wait till Man U this weekend. That's going to be my measuring stick. That's where I'm going to see where we actually are at. But Harvey Barnes filling in great for Anthony Gordon right now. I mean, he's doing it all. And is Tino Livramento the next right and left back for England? I mean, his big criticism was his left foot, and well, he figured out how to use his left foot. His left foot has been dangerous. I think he's got 2 assists he had the assist in the cup and then the assist yesterday for Murphy's second. But he's playing out of his mind, and that was one of my big concerns going into that cup draw. Is he going to be able to handle it with Lewis Hall out? So I like where we're at. Bench still scares me a little bit. Gordon should be back for next week. He picked up an injury in training, but we'll see what happens. But right now, it's all gravy. We have our trophy. That's literally all I care about. We've got a trophy.
I just wondered how they would rebound and if they would feel the same way. They're like, we got our trophy kind of a thing. But I think the Champions League is out there to be had. So
and I think they smell blood in the water. I think they felt that excitement with the cup and are saying to themselves, we want to feel that again. We want that. So we'll see what happens, but we've put ourselves in a nice spot. Good teams win the games they're supposed to, and we've handled that the last 2 matches.
That's what United is saying. We want some of that. But I mean, yeah, when you were saying, this is the measuring stick, I'm looking at I was like, Leicester United, what's the difference, kind of a deal. But I actually like watching that game. I want to see. I was like, I can't wait for the panel show because I want to see what I was going to say. Like, you watched that City game. I couldn't decide if City is not City anymore or United is not as bad, but they both look bad at times. What did you make of that game, for example, or where are you at now with the Amorim mix? I couldn't believe he's been there like 30 games or something.
Yeah, in all competitions.
Yes, when you're having fun. But yeah, where are you at with that? Like, what did you think about the Manchester City game, for example?
I think it's 2 teams. One who has lost most of their confidence, this season. That's Man City, trying to figure out trying to rebuild within a season. And United is just on the beach. That's United's on the beach. We're fighting. United is on the beach. So when he was talking about United, that's easy 3 points for Newcastle. Easy. United is on the beach. The only thing we are focused on is Europa or bust. That's where we are now.
There are never an easy 3 points for Newcastle. There's never an easy.
I guarantee you the fact that we have Europa in between that time. United is Yeah, United is there. That's all our eggs is on the Thursday game, Lyon, and the return leg in Old Trafford. So United is on the beach. Personally, that's what I think. I did think United played, in my opinion, they played decent. Well, they played out of the back very well. I thought they created some dangerous chances in the first half, especially, but bad decision on the final third, like Garnacho, that final pass. He was making mistakes. Hoyland is either a ghost or he's a what's the word I'm looking for now? Hoyland does not exist in my opinion. He's a NFT. That's the word I was looking for. Remember when NFT was a thing? Hoyland is an NFT. It doesn't exist. When everybody was talking about NFT to make money and everybody just and Hoyland is a non-fungible token. He doesn't exist.
How much was that NFT, by the way?
You said what?
How much did that NFT cost United?
70 million euros, if I remember. Yeah.
That's quite the investment, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what happened in that game. I thought if we had a decent striker, a half decent striker, I think we win that game. But it was two teams that were just way below standard. The quality was poor from both sides. They couldn't string 6-7 passes. I think United is on the beach, in my opinion. And I wonder, I'm even shocked that Amorim is playing his key players in that game, like in the league. At this point, what's the point? But I'm going to make, but the highest we can finish is 11th, 12th, maybe. That's even a maybe. So what's the point? Just throw your eggs in the Europa basket. I think that blows up, then you can switch them back into the league. That's what I think you should do. I wonder how you explain Bruno and all the key players. Personally, I think there's no point. Regarding Amorim, I think I'm fine. Like the problem with United now at this point, if you're a United fan or just an outsider looking at you, you're thinking it's just manager, then I think you're not just being honest with yourself, right? United need to fix recruitment. That's where United, they need to fix recruitment, figure out what a United player is, fix the recruitment, regardless of who the manager is there. They need to fix their recruitment. If they fix that part, Amorim, whatever it does, we'll find out what Amorim truly is. If he's good enough to like take United there, if he's just a guy that can take us to top 4, like we don't know what Amorim is. We don't. In reality, though, after seeing all of this, Amorim might not get that time just because of how bad the season is ending. If he doesn't win Europa, I think he has a short leash next season, a very short leash. If he has the bad start, I think he's gone next season. And I think a lot of it is the board and the decision making. I think some of it, in my personal opinion, I think I said it on here last time I was here, or maybe earlier in the season. The way he handled player management, he didn't need to do all of that, in my opinion. He just torpedoed the season for himself by being unnecessarily dramatic with players, I think. Like the whole Rashford thing was not necessary. He didn't need to go that route whatsoever. I think he should have handled that totally differently. And he just torpedoed the season for himself by doing that. But I really, really hope recruitment gets better. I'm fine with Amorim, like I said, because again, I think if you bring Pep plus Klopp together to come and coach Man United, nothing's going to change if you don't change recruitment. Because managers are not magicians. I think people need to understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, the best proof to show that managers are not magicians is Liverpool. Because I remember, like, I have very close reference, like Ola, and we always argue about the FSG versus Klopp thing. And they used to tell me for so many years, oh, it's Klopp. Forget FSG. FSG are doing nothing. It's Klopp. Klopp had the same squad last season. They crumbled. And Slot's about to win his first league title with the same squad without any player acquisition. If that doesn't tell you that people put too much stock in managers, if that doesn't tell you now, I don't think anything else will tell you. A great manager is good. It's important. Let's not do. But the foundations is your recruitment. If you get that wrong, everything else, you're just wasting your time.
See, okay, you opened up a window over here. See, now this is how the show goes off of track. So let's go with that, because I want to give, let's hear it from you guys. What do you guys think? Because I put that at 10 to 20% at most, I feel like, in a season you get from a manager. Like, because you do see, like, look at Everton, for example, right? Like how things change. So you can see sometimes a manager come in. For an immediate season, I think a manager can add more. Right? It can be like 40, 50%, but that's like a more short term. Glenn, let's start with you. In the long term, because I do agree with Ayo. Like, you can't just take, like, a manager and put him somewhere else, and suddenly, especially in short term, they're gonna make like such a big difference and stuff like that. If you can't shine a turd, you can make it look a little bit better, maybe like put some stuff around it or whatever. But what do you put the percentage in terms of how much a manager actually impacts the squad and the success of the club?
Yeah, I think it's quite high. I mean, let's just see, Aston Villa, for example, right? Look at the job Unai Emery's done over there. That's been a huge difference. Eddie Howe at Newcastle is a manager that's pretty highly regarded.
I don't know if that counts, because Eddie Howe has somebody next to him at all. So that doesn't count.
yeah. Jason's been doing it all. I mean, look at. It's just interesting to look at the table. Right, Marco Silva's done a pretty good job at Fulham. I'd say most of the top half of the table. I mean, Iriola doing so good at Bournemouth. I mean, I would say that there's not that many clubs that have failed upwards, if that makes sense. I mean, Chelsea are kind of, so inconsistent at the minute. Jury's out on Maresca, right? I think it's fair to say right now. But they're fourth, probably fair enough on merit. I mean, they had a month where I thought they were going to really compete for the title last year, when they really strung some good results together. So I guess, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would say at least 50%. I mean, I can't. Really? Yeah, I look at Thomas Frank. Look at the stability, the consistency that he's brought in. It's all speculation, and it's just a hypothesis. But if we had a different manager, I don't think we could have done much better than we have done under him, and I certainly feel like we could have done worse without him, right? And you look at and maybe Postecoglou is a good example. Big Ange is an example of a pretty poor manager not getting much out of a relatively talented squad. There's no way in hell that Man United should be 13th and Tottenham should be 14th, essentially. And there's a load of factors contributing to that, and I get that. But the manager issues they've had, and I'm not just putting that on Amorim at United, obviously. He's come in, he's inherited a total mess. We get that. We've talked about that a lot on here. Io said that, and I agree. But I think Spurs are a good example of, a decent squad really struggling to deal with a manager who, may just not be quite good enough. I'm not saying for the Premier League, but I don't think he's necessarily been a fit for Spurs in the medium term. Everyone was excited after he had a couple of good months, and it's kind of been downhill since then, pretty consistently downhill since those couple of months. And then, you look at the bottom of the table. I mean, maybe Ipswich is a really good case study where there's a clash, there's a tension between good manager and a bad squad. And what do you get, right? What do you get then? They're a squad that doesn't have the quality to stay in the Premier League. He's a good manager, inexperienced, obviously, in the Premier League, but he hasn't had this kind of Unai Emery star power or something to really get this team, playing as more of a sum of their parts. They've kind of reached their cap. So I do appreciate there's probably a ceiling to the way a squad's going to finish, especially a poor squad, right? And you just look at the bottom three, and the bottom two have rotated managers both. And all four of them have done a pretty abysmal job for different reasons. It's been clear that Van Nistelrooy's been out of his depth. I don't even know the name of the Southampton manager. I don't think we'll ever remember his name. He's already gone. He's like just extinguished, just puffed into smoke and disappeared. I would not recognize him in the street, right?
He's an NFT.
He is, exactly. Him and Hoyland are on the NFT market right now. I just think it's interesting to kind of like ground this conversation with a couple of examples, because I think there's a bit of evidence for both, but I would say the teams who are really outperforming expectations, I think across the board, are grounded by a really good manager. I mean, Nuno and Jury, I did not think he was a world beater. He was excellent at Wolves, poor at Spurs, but not Forest a third, because there's clearly a real connection between the manager and the squad, right? They're clearly working, pushing in the same direction. They're outperforming their expected position by at least 10 places. I mean, we thought they might be relegation candidates this year, right? Something's clicked. So it's a combination, but I certainly think, I don't know how many times we've seen an average squad overperform with a bad manager, if you see what I mean, right? I do think they add a real push, and the tactics do make a substantial difference. When every game is this competitive, you have to have a good tactician in the Premier League, or you're not going to last.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be somebody who can make adjustments, because a lot of stuff happens over a season. And it's kind of like a difficult thing to, measure in some ways, Sully, because time makes a huge difference too. But I think, like, you know, like those are some like weird examples. For example, Nuno, right? Then you would think, well, he should have done a lot better with Tottenham, and he couldn't. But maybe he didn't have enough time because really he wasn't there that long. So it's kind of sometimes hard to like gauge these guys because they don't have enough time. I mean, I feel like for example, United, I don't think that's the case. It's just the situation is so much crap, even though they're getting 3 years a pop. You know, you need a decade to clean up that crap, kind of a thing. Or there are other issues that they're not even able to address to clean up. But I think sometimes I feel like, Sully, that we when the manage when once the manager makes a name for themselves, it's like a band, right? Once they have a couple of hit songs, then they can fart on stage, and everybody is like, "Listen, hear that sound, man!" Right? Like it goes. So I feel like sometimes with managers, when they are successful, if they are not successful afterwards, by default, we blame the team. We're like, "Oh, the scout is not good," because obviously he is good. Whereas maybe initially the squad was actually good, carried him to where he was at. I know there are exceptions, but like, how much do you gauge in terms of the value the manager brings?
I so I want to attack this in a couple of different ways because I think it's almost like there's an ongoing argument in the NFL right now with the running back position, where a great running back can take a good team and make them a contender. But if you put that same great running back on a team that sucks, like that team is still going to suck, but you're going to have just a really good running back, you know? Yeah. And I think it almost comes down more to the ownership allowing a manager to do what they need to do. Like Newcastle's ownership could have panicked last season and given Eddie the boot. That would have been a terrible decision. That has played out for us. And Glenn, I was almost going to take the opposite opinion with Ange, where I don't think he's a terrible manager. I think this year he got those. It was the triage center for Tottenham for most of the middle of the season, and he kept them afloat. He kept them out of the relegation battle. I think a truly awful manager would have had Tottenham in that relegation fight. David Moyes, if you just were introduced to David Moyes when he was at Man U, you'd be like, this guy belongs not on the Sunday, not in a Sunday league pitch. This guy belongs on like a Tuesday evening pitch behind the YMCA. Like, this guy's terrible. And look at the job he's done for Everton. So it's really tough to say, but I do think a good manager can make all the difference. But a good manager also, a great manager can make chicken salad out of chicken shit. A good manager cannot do that. And I think that there are levels to this thing. So I think you truly have to be a great manager to push a team over the top. I don't think good enough managers are going to be the ones to do it. Also, I would like to introduce the new head of recruitment for Man United. She's a great judge of character. She loves playing with the ball. So I'd nominate Willow.
Well, we're not doing good on Tonali's picks, so we're gonna have to go keep it. We will have to hire him over there and do what we can.
Willow's gonna take Radcliffe's office at Old Trafford, I think.
I think the way I want to like kind of wrap this from my end. Sorry, Timothy.
Because I'm going to come to you because you're going to talk about Moyes, I'm sure.
Yeah, no. Before Moyes, what I wanted to say was a good manager. The way I see it in my head is a good manager cannot do much with a bad squad, right? A bad manager can definitely hold a good squad back. Can hold them back. Can't take them to like relegation, but like they can like severely underperform. That's what I think. And like a great manager with a good squad can take them to push, like what, in my opinion, what I think Fergie did in 2013. I think that was ridiculous. That 2013 squad should have not won the league, right? I think Liverpool's squad that won the league and Champions League, a very good squad, but I don't think they were an all-time squad. So I think yes, that's what makes Klopp a great manager, right? So I think that's the way I see it in my head. But go ahead. That's all I want to
That's
say.
what I was going to ask you though, like, because you guys are like, you guys, and I think Tottenham too. Like Tottenham is a good example. They've had some great managers, people we consider Conte and Mourinho, managers that are considered great, and has not gone. I mean, they haven't had the time, they haven't had the backing and stuff like that, which is similar to like United's. Which I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, they've gone through some like. I mean, obviously Mourinho is one of them, but Van Gaal and stuff like that, guys who have been successful elsewhere. So let me ask you this, because you mentioned that. Okay, good manager with a great squad, or a great manager with a good squad? Which one wins? Ayo. I didn't know there's an answer to this.
No, I'll answer this. So, good manager with a great squad in a league system wins.
Okay.
A league system. In a knockout system, I think most likely it can tilt towards the great manager because that's the way your tactics. But over like a 38 game period, a great squad, a good manager, in my opinion, wins.
Okay. Agree, Glenn? Because I think that's a good point. League versus an elimination thing where you can make tactical tweaks to win one game.
Yeah.
You can get the most out of a good squad, but a great squad is going to carry you even if you. I mean, we talk about this a lot now with like Slot, for example. We've seen some great substitutions to change the game around, and you can take that as a great substitution to change the game around, or you can say you didn't get the starting lineup right. So you can go both ways. I mean, there's probably different cases are true for different ones, but I mean, like, I guess the thing is, Glenn, you can take a great manager can save you. I mean, a great squad can save a manager just because there are more pieces you can throw out there that have quality to turn a game around and make you look good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I agree with the way you've put it, and I like the distinction between league and cup. I think over a 38 game season, whatever it is in the Premier League, I think the quality of a squad should rise to the top, right? That is the theory. And I mean, yeah, you could look at Chelsea, they're still fourth, despite question marks over the manager, despite some question marks over tactics, because they've just spent so much money and they've acquired such a big squad that you can just bring in like 70 million, 80 million players off the bench. Doesn't always work. But, the fact that they've been so erratic and yet they're still fourth in a highly competitive season for chasing Champions League football. I mean, yeah, that's just a big, bulky squad that's had so much money injected into it with a manager that maybe hasn't like stunned anyone. That's probably a great squad with a good manager and they're fourth. So I think there's like fair evidence. And Man City is just an example of when a elite manager and an elite squad, something's off, right? Something changes, the equilibrium's off, and you can have the best manager in the world. He's one of the greats, and you can have some of the best players in the world because they have some of the greats in their squad. And however you try and change it, you just hit a brick wall. So you're going to get outliers every season where whatever pieces you have don't function for whatever reason that is. But yeah, I think over the course of the season, I'd take the squad. But yeah, you can get an edge with the subs in cup football, right? Tactics, extra time, right? There's things you can do. There's opportunities to a really strong manager that can really open those doors. And I mean, I think one example internationally, this discussion would be the England national team under Gareth Southgate, which is a great squad with arguably a good manager, right? Or some would say otherwise. I still think he's a good manager, but you definitely have the squad, the prestige of the squad far outweighs the prestige of the manager. And yet, arguably, he still managed to get them to perform to a pretty consistently high level over 4 tournaments, right? So it's interesting. I guess the point is there isn't a formula or a rule. There's always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be contradictions. But nonetheless, it is an interesting dynamic because at the end of the day, if you're the owner of a team, do you try and prize a high quality manager, pay up his contract and pull him over to your team? Or would you think, oh, we'll take the next manager on the list, but reinvest that money we'd spend in the squad? So this has got to be like a discussion and question it's in boardrooms all the time. To what extent do we chase the best manager, or do we put that towards the players?
Yeah, and then I think there's like some specialists too, right? Like saving teams from relegation, or there's always like the manager before the manager. Like we were talking about, is Arteta that guy and stuff like that, for example, before, like the guy who brings it to a certain level, and then this other dude just steps in and gets him the title or the championship or whatever. And you see that in different sports. But I mean, like Southgate is an interesting one, for example. And I'll ask the same question to you, the good manager, great squad thing, because like that's a good example. I'm glad Glenn brought it up, because I feel like our new employee over there, Sully, we can put the squad, the England squad, he can put a paw on whoever he wants, and they would probably be pretty competitive in a Euro, I would think, with that squad.
I think, I actually think it comes down to the assistant manager. I think that's really where the energy comes from.
To the manager, yeah, it's like
Jason Tyndall. That's all I got to say. So, but no, I mean, all I have to go off of is we have arguably one of the top 3 managers in the Premier League. We have a great manager. Our squad is just good. I don't think our squad is great, and it's taken us to success that we haven't had.
Eddie Howe as the top, like 3 top managers
in the Premier League. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I'd go.
That's what I'm thinking.
I was wondering where it was going with that. Like, oh, Eddie Howe, okay.
Oh, yeah, I'd go Slot.
I'd go Jason. Yeah.
I'd go Slot. I'd still go Pep, and I would go Eddie Howe. I think that's my top 3 right now.
Arteta?
Over Arteta, yeah.
Oh, wow. Over Unai Emery?
Over Unai Emery, yeah.
Oh, come on.
What trophy does Unai Emery have this year? What trophy?
Oh,
the Champions League, maybe. Might be the Champions League.
That is true. That is accurate. That's accurate. I'll give you that. But I mean, the calling card, and it's getting cliche at this point, is Eddie Howe discovered that Joe Linton is actually a midfielder and not a striker. I mean, it's been beat to death. But I think, again, I think I would rather have a good squad with a great manager that's going to get the most out of the squad. And I think that is the sign of a great manager. Somebody who can take what they're given and exceed expectations with it. Because I mean, if you look at Newcastle on paper, I mean, Isak's our talisman. Our midfield is outstanding, but it's not glamorous. It's
probably one of the best midfields in the league.
But it's not like a City midfield where it's just these beautiful distributions. It's, oh, I don't want to get hit by Bruno. I got away from Bruno. Oh, I don't want to get hit by Joe Linton. I got hit by Joe Linton. Like, that is how I see it. And I think
I wouldn't mind getting hit by Bruno. Joe Linton is a different story. It's like a truck. I wouldn't want to get hit by Bruno.
Bruno's got the elbows. The elbows come up with Bruno. But I think I would rather have the great manager, good squad, and have a manager that can get the most out of what they are given year in and year out. But I do think I think it comes back to management allowing a manager to have the time to put their stamp on the team and construct a team that they want. And I mean, if you look at Eddie's first few years, Newcastle were kind of masters of the dark arts, and we've kind of changed that. We're not as dirty of a team. We're not as much of a team that's, we are.
You just talked about the guy's elbows, and then you're like, we're not that dirty, though. Like,
but we're not. It's cleaner elbows. It's cleaner elbows. It's much cleaner elbows.
He scrubs them before the game.
Exactly. Exactly. But, I mean, in the early Eddie years, Jamal Lascelles was getting yellow cards from the bench for standing in front of people trying to take throw-ins. Like, you're not seeing that anymore, and I think Eddie's adapted to the way he would play. So, moral of the story, give me the great manager, the good squad.
That's interesting. Okay, let me ask you guys this before we get to Tonali's picks over here. I'll give you 3 teams, Io, and you tell me if their managers right now comes August, they're still the manager leading into the new season. United, Chelsea, Tottenham. out of those three, will all three have the same manager entering the new season?
Can I give caveats? No caveats, just straight answers.
Depends on the caveats, I guess, but
I think
let's
I'm
give
already
your
100.
picks, and
I think
I'll
I'm already 100%. He's going to be there.
Okay.
I think Spurs, if they get knocked out, if they don't make the final of Europa, if they don't get to the final, I think he'll get fired. Maresca doesn't make top five. Maresca doesn't make Champions League football. He's gone.
Okay.
So
So possibly like just one out of the three, you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, possibly one out of three.
Glenn, out of those three, who makes it to August?
Yeah, I agree with the caveats. That's exactly what I was going to say. Some really good points. Yeah.
Damn it, I should have never loved the caveats then, but okay.
Amorim, 100%. If I had to be simple and say yes, no, I think Amorim and Maresca will still be there and Ange will not. What would save Ange would be not making the final, but winning the Europa League. I don't think making the final would be enough. Yeah. I think he's lost the fans. I think the whole cupping his ear thing, whatever kind of unfolded there was just like, it was a show of petulance that he's getting frustrated, right? He's just sick of this season. He's possibly, I don't want to say sick of the job, but he's certainly sick of the conditions he's working in, whether that's leadership, fans, injuries, whole thing. He must be draining. It's a shit job managing Spurs. We all know that. It's not very much fun. And then, yeah, the wild card, I would say pretty certain yes and no. And the real kind of contextual dependent wild card is like Maresca, because you never know what's going on behind the scenes at Stamford Bridge, right? It is just they burn through managers and they're still fourth. And I totally agree with you. I think it's all down to Champions League football, but they've been so erratic. I mean, they're in an interesting position where their Europa competition, I don't think, makes a jolt of difference to his job prospects. In any way, it would only negatively impact it if they crashed out, this round or something, right? That would be a bit humiliating. Winning it, I don't think would make a difference. Losing it wouldn't be a positive, but if they got to the final, whatever. Okay, it's 90 minutes. Who cares? I think the tournament is much, much, much more important for Ange. And obviously with United and Ange, right, you're looking at that's a route to Champions League football, which is just huge at this stage. When you're in the bottom half of the table, any route to Champions League football is ginormous. But yeah, I think Maresca will still be there come next season, but it's Chelsea, so it's kind of a bit chaotic.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like the way last season ended with Pochettino, we were like nobody thought he'd be gone because it was like the trajectory was up and then suddenly he was gone. So that's why I feel like it's almost like the opposite though. Like they were up in the beginning and he's like, oh, he's got it figured out, but it was basically went as far as Palmer went. And with Ange, it's weird because in the early season he was like, this cool guy from Australia plays really attacking. It's like suddenly I feel like a Foster's after the press conference and stuff. And now he's like this old man shooting at VAR with like shutdowns and stuff because like once the results are not there, he's getting crabbier and crabbier and crabbier, and it's not so much fun anymore. Is he there next year, Sully?
I think if Ange, this is my caveat, Ange either gets fired 3 games before the end of the season, or he's there in August and then gets fired in November. That's what I could see happening. But I think the Man U job and the Chelsea job are safe. I think those leashes are a bit longer. Chelsea obviously is in a Champions League position right now, and I mean, Man U is going to Man U. They're going to figure out. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. I don't think Radcliffe wants to spend money on finding another manager. So I think he's going to ride out an investment for at least another year. But Ange is the one that's obviously in the hot seat. But again, Spurs not known for opening the bag. If he's not gone before the end of the season, he's there in August. And if he's there in August, I give it till November.
I mean, yeah, if it was up to Radcliffe, he'd put the lunch lady in charge, except they don't serve lunches there anymore. So there's that. We can't even do that anymore because there are no lunches. I mean, you look at Tottenham's schedule, by the way, that is not looking so hot. I mean, you have a Wolves team that's, like dangerous and can definitely get goals against Spurs. Then you have Forest away at Liverpool, away to West Ham, Palace, who can have fun with Spurs on the counter, it feels like, because it's that kind of a team, and away to Villa, who will be in that probably like Champions League chase at that time, and then home to Brighton. So that is not really a very favorable schedule. So I think it does kind of come to Europa, and that's really interesting for both those teams to kind of go there. And they play in the next round, right? If they win, so they can't meet in the final. They're in the semifinal, right? Both Spurs, aren't they on the same
Who's the Spurs
side of the brackets? Well, you should know. You're a United guy.
Spurs are United.
Spurs are United.
No, we can't leave it to the final.
Okay. Well, it is that time.
Timogen, when you were talking about Crystal Palace, I had to just take a quick look at the table. Crystal Palace just seems to be in 11th place all the time. Like that's like they're like locked in location. Like we should just call it like that should be the median for the league. Are you above Palace or are you below Palace? That's the temperate. That's how we're measuring all this.
They've been on a roll, man. They've been like kind of like a fun team to watch. I mean, on the counter, they're like, I mean, I worry about a game. I mean, I think it's like the very last game of the season for Liverpool and stuff. So hopefully by then we'll seal the deal anyway. But yeah, it's like a game. I would worry if I'm a home team against them. I would worry more. And really, it's a tough place to go to as well. So, well, it is that time. It is. Well, it is. Should be that time. I should put there. He is with all his glory. Doesn't have a horse, but there's a horse racing I think behind him over there. So
there is, there is.
He does it all. Okay, let's put this up on the screen. Tonali's picks. We're actually hiring dogs, so to get a couple more people on the staff of this academy, we need to play some good bets. Io, we will start with you. Where is the money going?
Where is the money going?
Down the drain.
Everton beating Forest.
Damn.
That's my upset.
That has to be some good odds too.
Everton beating Forest. I'll go with that.
That's an interesting pick, actually. I like that.
I like that a lot.
Glenn, are you picking your boys? Because after today's results, Arsenal might be like, you know what? We might have this Champions League thing going.
Yeah, I don't mind that. As you said, there's not much chance we're going to see Saka, for example. Right, he's going to be wrapped up, tucked away, saved for the next battle in Madrid. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I'd like to think that we could get a result there. I'm sure we can. We just probably don't think we've got a particularly good record at the Emirates, and you don't know whether the fans are going to be really hyped up from that win today. It was like probably a highlight of Arteta's reign, really. Probably a top 3, 4, 5 moment for him. Yeah. So I wonder if the fans are going to react to that, and if that's going to actually just hype up some of the backup players who are going to come in. Based on what we just said a few minutes ago, I like Palace away at Man City. I think they have the players to hurt them. Eze, Sarr, Mateta, that's a really exciting front three. Munoz essentially playing as a winger. They're a team that can hurt City. And from memory, I feel like they actually have quite a good record at the Etihad. I know they've had some really big results there with some big goals, Palace. I'm sure they've won there last couple years. So I kind of wish it wasn't the early kickoff. I don't know. Games just early kickoffs never feel quite as the crowd are never quite as excited as the later ones. But I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford got a draw.
To be fair, it's at the City, so
that's true. It could be any time. It could be 10 p.m. Exactly. I like Palace to get a win at Man City.
Sully.
Those were both of my picks. That was my 1 and 2. I'm gonna go Ipswich with a win at Chelsea. I hate Chelsea. I need them to drop points. I love it. Ipswich. My second team has always been Ipswich, no matter what. So I'm going Ipswich. Put all your money there.
I mean, they beat them the first leg, so
Yep. So there we go. There we go. The other one, keep an eye on Tottenham Wolves. I think that could be a draw.
See, that's like the weird thing. I was going to go for that game, but I'm like, who's the favorite? Tottenham's not the favorite, are they?
They have to be. They're ahead of Wolves.
Ahead of Wolves.
Is it
by what, one?
Yeah.
I mean, if that counts, I'm taking the Wolves because I really feel like they're the favorite in that game. I think the Wolves get that game at home against them because that's a team that can counter too, and we know what Spurs. Yeah, if that counts, I'm taking that then. I'll take Wolves. I was like, I don't know, because the Newcastle United game, for example, I would think United would be the upset on that one, right, Io? That's like probably the upset. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Yeah, I don't see United's. No. I see United crumbling out of that physicality of Newcastle. They just don't have the body.
Because they would have just come back on Friday from Lyon. Lyon's a physical team. Then they have to travel to Newcastle all the way. I think they're going to
pack up all the NFTs in a USB.
Yeah. They're going to rest players. Chido is going to play that game most likely. Play our 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, that exactly. Gomer's clean elbows and everything. Yeah, I just don't see them having a chance on that one. But I mean, it'll be interesting what happens with that Brentford game because obviously Liverpool. I really think Liverpool would have played totally differently against Fulham if Arsenal did not lose points the day before. And I can tell you that I would worry about that Liverpool game. It might not be a freaking bad Tonali's pick if Brentford does something again against Arsenal. It's just a mindset thing, which to me, the biggest disappointment, and we talked about it, so I don't want to talk about it again. We've talked about it over the last 2 days that, the mistakes and the kind of the head not being there came from guys like Robertson and Van Dijk and stuff, who you expect those guys to get everybody else like Gravenberch and stuff to say, hey, stay on task. Doesn't matter how many points. We just got to win the games and put this away. Then we'll start the party kind of thing. So we will see. Newcastle's game in hand is Crystal Palace. When is that coming up?
That's Wednesday.
Is it this week?
Yeah, this is it not tomorrow, but the next game
week. 16th.
Okay. So yeah, well, that's not going to affect them. But yeah, I think Newcastle beats United handily over there as well.
I've been calling Crystal Palace Kryptonite Palace for the last 2 or 3 years. They have our number every game, and I don't like that being the game in hand. They're solid. They show up every time we play. That could be a 1-1 draw. I think
Where's that game?
Was it?
Where's that game? Is it at Newcastle?
I don't think it matters, to be honest. I'm still nervous about it. Let's see here.
It's at St. James's.
Newcastle win.
I need to borrow some of your faith, man. Can you package it up and send it to me? Because man, this positivity I'm not used to.
It's easy from outside. You can be positive about United. I'm sure Io can't. That's just how the system works. That's why we have this panel.
I'm positive about United. I think we win Europa League. I'm saying that here. I think United win Europa League this season.
Who was left?
There's Frankfurt left. There's Lyon. There's Bilbao. Bilbao is a good team. Atletico Bilbao. They're a good team. But I think United win Europa League.
Nico Williams is outstanding. I love
that. Yeah, because they're going to play Rangers, who, Fenerbahce could have gotten past them. It was basically the penalty kicks is how they got on it. So Bilbao, I think, will have an easy way with them. But it goes to the final. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird. That would be a good final, though. So that would be a possible final then, right, Io? Because they would get Spurs in the next round.
Which would Bilbao?
Yeah.
No, we get Bilbao next round.
Oh, get Bilbao in the next round.
If we beat Lyon.
So you guys won't make the final then. Okay.
I think we will. I'm being honest. I think we will win the Europa League. I really do.
Sully, who wins the Europa?
I kind of like Bilbao. I have a soft spot for Bilbao and the Basque. So I would say Bilbao, but
who is the fourth one? Is it Roma?
If Man U gets past Bilbao, they'll win.
Glenn, who wins the Europa?
Oh, it's tricky. Wouldn't it be funny if, after everything we've said, Ange delivers on his promise? Trophy in the second season, brings it home, brings it back to London. Let's do it.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, that's actually like I don't know, like Europa is not too bad. It's still a fun tournament to watch. The other one, I don't even know why they have.
I don't know. Nobody cares about conference.
Yeah, nobody cares about that one. Like, I don't. I
Hey,
honestly, I have
if
no
we
idea.
make conference league, this guy's gonna care about conference league. We're gonna rack up all the Mickey Mouse trophies. Like, give us all of
Charity
them.
Shield, Community Shield, whatever it is called now. It's kind of like that. You know, if you're in it, you're like, oh, it's really big. If you're not in it, you're like, that was today. Like, who won and stuff. So that's one of those deals. But hey, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week, hopefully richer. And we'll talk about the match week that we left behind. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care.